Hey y'all, welcome back to part 2. This is part 2 of my video that I don't know what I'm calling it yet. If you're new here, I'm Dara, also known as Dara Madrice. Here recently, your girl has really awakened to life. My life has changed so much. I used to be so irritated, so stressed. I used to do the most. Finding that peace is nothing like it, okay? So in my last video, I talked about how I was in such a negative headspace. I talked about how a lot of negative energies that were around me influenced me, the way I acted, and how it just completely brought me down from the time I was a child all the way up until I was about 34. During those years, I took in a lot of negative energies, and I was a people pleaser because of various relationships that I came upon during those years. And a lot of the time I focused so much of my energy on everybody else but myself. I never took the time to check on me. And so having all those feelings leading up until my 30s, I really had a breakdown. I had a mental breakdown, and I really just wanted all the thoughts and all the stress, all the craziness to stop. I just didn't want to be here anymore because I didn't want to have all the racing thoughts, and I didn't want that in my life anymore. And I didn't know which way to go. I didn't know which way to turn, who to talk to. I've always been an introverted person, so I didn't have a lot of friends, and like I said, a lot of times I just really focused on everybody else, and I just felt like nobody wanted to hear my problems. I was so busy hearing everybody else's problems, which really helped to put more of a negative weight on me. I'm not saying that it's anything wrong with people venting to you, but at the same time, there's a limit, and you also have to recharge in order to keep taking in all those different type of energies. And I wasn't doing that. I was so busy on the go. I was dealing with those negative relationships, and I was dealing with going to a negative place, the job that I was at. It was just a lot of negative things in my life, and I was just taking all of that in every single day from childhood. I did a lot of people pleasing during my childhood as well, so I never had a break all the way up until my 30s. And that is when I busted, and I had had enough. And so that basically leads us to my spiritual awakening. If you guys haven't been watching me or following me, I talk a lot about self-love and self-discovery. I talk a lot about all of that because finding that love for myself really was the catalyst. It was really the start of my new beginning to life. All my life, I never had self-love. I looked for love in everybody else. I looked for love in my mom. My mom, she has schizophrenia. She has a mental illness. So although I'm sure if she was in a healthier mind state, she would have been able to give me the love, because she did give me love in her own way. But I didn't have that motherly love that I needed. My father wasn't present, although my grandfather was present. And I love my grandfather so much because he took me in, and I could have been anywhere. So I'm so grateful for him. But at the same time, my grandfather was older, so it was harder for him to kind of teach me. And he's a man. I'm a young girl growing into a young woman, and he couldn't teach me all those things. I just never had any type of, I didn't have the love that I really needed. And so it wasn't second nature for me to find the love within myself, because I was a people pleaser. I just wanted to make sure everybody was okay. I wanted to make sure my mom was okay. I wanted to make sure my granddaddy was okay. Growing up and then becoming a young woman and entering relationships that weren't the best for me, I was hyper aware because I was in a abusive relationship. So I was hyper aware in that situation, and I was so ready to people please that person because I just didn't want no smoke. I didn't want to fight, and so I never was taught how to deal with those situations as well. So that played a factor. And then after that relationship, I got into another relationship, and given my past and my past relationship and how I grew up, I was nowhere near ready to enter into another relationship. But I did that, and I continued with the people pleasing and just going with things that I shouldn't have went with just to make that person happy. And overall, I gave to people because I wanted them to give me the love back. The love that I was giving to everybody else, I was expecting for them to give me that love back. I attracted a lot of negative energies to me, and because they were in their energy of take, and I was just giving, they never gave back to me. And that's really nobody's fault, because I was expecting them to give it to me, give me that love and attention and affection that I so desperately needed, and I wasn't getting it. I didn't get it in any of my relationships, and so I was depleted. I was depleted. So let me talk about how I came upon the self-love. Let me say that, because I feel like I probably should have said this first, but anyway, we gonna go along with it, okay? So when I really realized that I needed to love myself and give myself love, because it was easy for me to say, yeah, I love myself. It's easy to say that, like, I love myself. Yeah, I love myself. But like really realizing that I wasn't giving myself the love. From those bad experiences that I had, those near-death experiences, I didn't want anything bad to happen to me. But at the same time, I wasn't giving myself love at all. And so when I went through my spiritual awakening, I started to meditate. And the first time that I actually sat down and really focused on meditating, because it was times I would try to meditate and my mind would be racing and I would just be everywhere in all type of energies. This time I meditated and I focused on my breath, I focused my attention, and I really sat with myself for the first time. I took the time to really just center with myself. And it's so crazy, because when I did that, before I even got into a complete meditative state, I was stretching, and then the next thing I know, I was hugging myself. Like, I was doing my little stretches, and I hugged myself. And in that moment, I started to cry. I'm talking about, y'all, I was crying, boo-hooing, and I'm trying to figure out, like, where's this emotion coming from? Like, why am I feeling like this? And after I finished crying, I processed it, and I realized that it was me. It was the little Dara. It was my soul. It was me from all of the years that I was just people pleasing and going here and doing this and just giving all of my energy away. It was me finally giving myself that love, that hug that I always needed, that I never got as a child, that hug that I always needed when I was in the thick of my DV relationship and I felt like I was so alone. It was that hug that I was giving to me. I just always needed that. It was a real hug. And from that point forward, things started to roll, baby, okay? I started to look up things. I started to Google Pinterest. Pinterest was my favorite app to go on as far as how can I love myself more, because I didn't know how to love myself. I was never taught, so I just started Googling, researching ways to practice self-love, how to practice self-love. YouTube, I was on YouTube, like, what can I do? The more that I started to love myself, the more my spirit, my soul started to awaken and see all of the things that I was blinded to, because I was so busy with my head down, doing this, doing that, pleasing this person, pleasing that person. But when I started to love myself and really pay attention to just everything, interactions, people's interactions with me, how I interacted with people, once I started to see that, that's when all of my major life changes started happening like a domino. It was just like Bam, bam, bam. I do have a video on my major changes. I talked about a few major changes I began to make when I started going through my awakening. I started cleaning my space because I was so junky, y'all. I would have piles of clean clothes everywhere. My closet was a mess. And I just became so focused on just cleaning up everything. On that major changes video, I went more into depth on the things that I changed in my life. I started changing in my life. Everything that I changed, it was like a 180 from who I used to be. I stopped watching TV. I was a reality TV chick. Stop doing that. I got a whole video on quit my job. Y'all go check that out. I quit my job. I quit my job without a real plan, but I made sure that I was gonna be good. God got me at the end. I knew that the best option for me, in order to be the best me that I could be, was to leave that place. And so I quit my job. I changed the way that I eat. That was a big thing for me. I'm still kind of a little bit struggling with that, but I'm getting better and better every single day. I let go of relationships that no longer resonated with me. Whatever I felt like wasn't aligned with the person that I wanted to be or the person that I was on my way to being. Basically chasing my abundance, how I am, how I will be. So not only did I start making those major changes in my life, I also began shadow work. And if you guys don't know what shadow working is, it's basically casting a light on those shadows that you have, past traumas, anything that puts you in a negative mindset, negative mind frame, fixed beliefs that really don't align with who you really are, that really don't align with your soul. So for instance, I did a lot of shadow working on my family dynamic. My family is a big family, and I had to really come to terms that even though I have a big family, we're not close. Given how I grew up, not having any type of guidance, I felt some type of way about having all this family and still feeling so alone as a child. I also did a lot of shadow working on past childhood traumas. Something very traumatic happened to me when I was a child, and I held a lot of resentment towards people and the person that really traumatized me as a child. I held a lot of resentment for my family. And on my friend's video, I held a lot of resentment towards females in general, just because of what I went through as a child. So in order for me to be the best me that I can be, I had to deal with those emotions. I had to deal with those shadows in order to come out on top. You can't be positive if you still holding negativity. Resentment, that's negativity. When you're refusing to forgive somebody for something that they did to you or something that they said to you, when you refuse to forgive them and you hold on to that anger, you are holding yourself back in so many ways. And so I really had to deal with those shadows head on. And y'all, what I will say is it was not pretty. Going back and dealing with all of those emotions that I felt and reliving those situations so I could really cope and deal and just let out all the emotions that I needed to let out. It really did something to me. And if you're spiritual, we call it the dark night of the soul, where you basically shedding all that old skin. And I went through that for a couple of months. But when I tell y'all, when I came out of the dark, I felt so good. Just forgiving those people and giving the little Dara a hug and just actually sitting with those emotions, just looking back on everything, looking back over my life and really making peace with that really was the biggest thing for me. I feel like self-love encompasses it. It's the big umbrella for that. That was just one of my biggest shadows. Blaming everybody else for not making me happy. Blaming everybody else for not giving me the love that I just so desperately needed, because it's not on anybody to give me love. I need to give myself that love. And so coming through the dark night of the soul and forgiving my past, forgiving people in my past, it really changed me for the better. And I'm just gonna say, y'all, I feel the best that I've ever 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 in my 35 years of living on this earth. I feel better than I've ever felt in my life, in my whole entire life. I'm starting to become the person that I've always was supposed to be. I used to be shy, timid. I didn't want to step on nobody's toes. I let people walk all over my boundaries, walk all over me. But now, honey, because, honey, Dara got Dara, okay? At the end of the day, I love myself too much to let anybody run over me. I love myself too much to let those boundaries be broken ever again. And I would have never came to this point had I not found that self-love that I just so desperately looked for in everybody else. Had I not found the love for myself, I would have still been stuck. I would have been stuck in everybody else's energies. And now I'm in my own energy, my own positive vibration, okay? I was a little skeptical about creating this video. I ain't gonna lie to y'all, because I'm really bearing my personal, you know what I'm saying? But I've talked to God. I've consulted with my spirit guides. And I feel like me telling my story is going to help somebody. I don't care if it only helps one person. It's going to help somebody. Because when I went through my awakening and my dark night of the soul, I couldn't find a lot of resources on how to navigate. Because it's scary. Going through that awakening, being used to being in so many different type of negative energies, and just being in a place where you are starting to see the light and everybody else around you is dark, just being in that, it's scary because you feel alone. And I felt like I was going crazy at times. I felt like what's going on with me? Like, am I okay? Am I alright? Like, and I would Google and try to figure it out, and I got a lot of information, but I feel like I needed something more relatable to me. And so I decided to make this video and bare my soul, bare my business out, you know what I'm saying, to help somebody else who's going through this, or feel it coming. You feel the awakening coming, or you just seeing things a lot differently now. And I've been through it. I've been through the awakening. I've been through the dark night of the soul. And your girl is on the up and up. I really want to focus on self-love and self-discovery. I call it self-rediscovery. If we all change and love ourselves, if we can all find that self-love, this world will be so, I was about to say so bomb. But if we all found that self-love for ourselves, I feel like this world would be such a more peaceful place. Make sure y'all go watch those podcasts, my major changes, my friend's video, advice I would have given to little Dara, because all of those videos talk about my major changes, my shadow work that I've done, just a little bit of everything. So y'all go watch those. Subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure that you like this video, because when you like the video, YouTube shows this video to more and more people. We need to get the self-love, self-awareness out here into the world, okay? If you don't do anything else, make sure that you are continuously achieving greatness, okay? And with that being said, y'all, your girl is out. I will see you guys on the next one. Bye, y'all.